Doesn't seem very materialist.
But materialism has nothing to do with empiricism. Materialism is a rejection of the formatic understanding of being, that being is a form, okay, that can only be accessed by means of one specific type of activity, thought, right? So the idea that thinking and being are the same, which I believe is from the Parmenides, from Plato, that is basically the fundamental purport of idealism, in a sense. The notion that the absolute and the ultimate being is some kind of thought. And the notion that the various distinctions and intelligibles and determinations with being are themselves concepts or reflections of concepts or correspond to concepts. And the Marxist view, the materialist view, rejects that. Materialism regards reality as actually the thing that's fundamental and primary, and ideation and thinking as secondary or reflective, right? But with respect to the question of an absolute being, it's not a question of whether the being is unreal or real, but whether it's absolute being. So, does Marxism presuppose the necessity of an absolute being? Absolutely. If there's a material integrity of the cosmos, if there's a material integrity of something that we call a universe, that means there has to be a fundamental principle of existence and reality. Okay, well, historically, that principle was just called God. That's what God referred to.
But why necessarily?
God did not refer to a man in the sky who was wearing a robe, fiddling around, doing X, Y, and Z. God is referring to the ultimate reality. If whether that reality is material or ideal is not the question, but actually religion is materialist, because religion is actually the thing that asserts that reality is material. When philosophers try to say that that reality is an ideal reality, they're trying to make it accessible by means of the philosophical intellect, which culminates in a type of atheism that says man can become God or be equal to God. And Hegel actually kind of reproduces this because Hegel talks about this idea of absolute knowledge. Well, absolute knowledge means that man, through his thinking, acquires parity and equality with the thinking and mind of God, in a way, right? But materialism is the thing that says, no, you can never actually achieve parity by way of the intellect or thinking with the absolute integrity of material being. It's always going to be something more fundamental than anything that can be reflected by thought. So by nature, Marxist materialism rejects shirk. It rejects idolatry. It rejects the idea that the material integrity of being can ever find fruition and satisfaction in any given determination, right? It says the whole thing in its integrity, in its totality, right, can never find full fulfillment in a single determination, in a single thing. And therefore, any idol of existence can't be reduced to it. It's always something more. So this is dialectical materialism.
So I just need to ask here. First of all, like, supposing that what you said is true, why specifically does it have to be the Islamic God? Second of all,
what?
Why specifically does it have to be the Islamic God?
Because only the Islamic God,
like monotheistic God.
Because only the Islamic God. Because communism is the same thing as monotheism. Communism is about the more fundamental reality that conditions the division of labor. Polytheism states that each of the various divisions of labor exist unto themselves, right? Polytheism, for example, the worship of various different gods and deities, that's a reflection of the division of labor. So that's why in, for example, polytheistic religions like Hinduism, you have a caste society, because they reify and they turn the castes into these absolute, unchangeable categories, because it doesn't have a notion of a single reality we all share in common and before which we are all equal, right? So monotheism and communism are the same thing. But Marx's materialism is specifically monotheist because it recognizes one ultimate reality, one ultimate material reality. And the isthmus, which is what the Islamic mystical Sufi philosophers called it, or insan al-kamil, right, is man. For Marx, that is man. Man is the fundamental point of reference before which all thinking must refer to an ultimate and fundamental, absolute, single reality, right? Marx's materialism is bounded up in his humanism of one universal man, one universal human reality, right?